Welcome back to another episode of the USL show. We have like 5 shows in 2 weeks, which is unheard of for us. Don't get too used to it, people. We are being joined by a very, very special guest. We're being joined by an absolute legend of the coaching world, especially in the college ranks. We're being joined by a guy who, to quote LeBron James, has not one, not two, not three, but 4 national titles. Joined from a guy who comes from, I think it is Brentwood, New York, a graduate of Southern Connecticut, where he would eventually take his alma mater to glory and eventually UConn themselves. We're talking to Mr. Reid. How you
guys doing?
Doing good. How about you?
Good.
Thank you very much for having me on tonight. It's an honor.
We're absolutely stoked to have you. Something we didn't mention, you're also the technical director at Hartford Athletic. I got really caught up with, just your illustrious career before you quote unquote retired. And now here you are as a technical director for a professional club. What a career you've had.
I've been very lucky. I'm surrounded with some great players and great assistant coaches. When I was coaching, I've been very fortunate and I'm very blessed to have the opportunity to work with Hartford Athletic.
So to kind of start off, I guess I do want to talk a bit about your early playing and then your early coaching career, going to, Southern Connecticut and kind of doing that whole, what people would consider a lower level, right? And I've talked to a lot of people in the past, and it's pretty much universally agreed that those Division II schools are not really a lower level of soccer. They're just not. It's not as low as people think. But, kind of get your career started there, both playing and coaching, and to have early success, and to be a dominant force, kind of how did that propel you for the rest of your career?
Yeah, I was very lucky. I played at Southern Connecticut for me, one of the best coaches in America, Coach the Cranian, 80, 81, and 82. And my senior year, we lost the national final to FIU in Miami, 2-1. And then I decided to stay on. Coach asked me to be his assistant, so I was the second assistant. I was there for 6 years, I think 6 or 7 years as the assistant coach. And in 87, we won the first national championship, Coach the Cranian's team, with some great players in it, probably guys, Johnny DeBrito, who went on to play in the MLS, Gary Cronin, Billy Gelka, Juan Osorio, who just coached Mexico in the 2018 World Cup. Juan played for us. Marvin Etienne was a great wide player. Henry George. Just a great group of players. We won it in 87. 88 was Coach's last year. He retired. In 89, I took over.
So taking over for a legendary coach like that with quite a list of names that you just rattled off. Does that ever just kind of blow you away of just kind of the names that you just kind of have in your back pocket that you coached?
Well, we were very fortunate. A lot of people don't know this, but some of the guys that played at Southern Connecticut, Michael Pecky, who played for obviously Red Bull and DC United, Ricky Kozak, who played in the Under-20 World Cup, Bo O'Shoney, who played in MLS for about 8-10 years, presently the coach at Dartmouth. Kevin Anderson, who played NASL, ASL, and a little MLS, also played now the head coach at Columbia. Bobby Muse played for us. He was the head coach. He's head coach president at Wake Forest. George Kiefer played for us. He's the head coach at NC State. There's some fantastic players. Who else? Chris Hauser. Hauser played for the Tampa Bay Mutiny, center back. So we've been very blessed with a lot of great players to come through the program there. And hence the success was built on the back of so many players.
So I want to toss it over to someone else that I'm being joined by, someone who we often refer to as our USL encyclopedia. I'm going to toss it over to other co-host, Ryan. How you doing, Ryan?
I'm doing well tonight. How are you today, Kaylor?
I'm doing all right. It's been rainy and all that kind of stuff. Had to replace a microwave today. Didn't like that. Did not like that. But yeah, how are you?
So you had mentioned a little bit about your background within Southern Connecticut. You then made the transition into UConn. Would you be willing to talk a little bit about your background, having moved into the Division I program, and then especially since UConn had gone through the conference change at that time, and just how the soccer landscape had changed while you were at UConn?
Yeah, when I got there, we were in the Big East, and we inherited Bobby Ryan, who played in the MLS, Mauricio Rocha. We had a great pipeline with a lot of players from St. Benedict's Prep in New Jersey. St. Benedict's Prep's where Tab Ramos played, Claudio Reyna, Greg Berhalter. We had some great players come play for us. And then, the Big East really became a very good soccer conference. St. John's, ourselves, Rutgers under Bob Riasso. Later on, Louisville joined, Notre Dame joined, South Florida joined, West Virginia joined, Marquette joined, which I believe the last year we were in the Big East, which might have been 2011, we got 8 teams into the NCAA tournament. So the Big East was a very good soccer conference back in the day.
Yeah, I mean, the Big East for me growing up, right, I always thought of the Big East, especially the basketball and the football side of things. So those were some of my fond memories with those conferences. But then, kind of looking at the soccer side of things after I started really getting into the sport, I was just blown away with some of the names and some of the matches that happened, going back and watching old Big East Conference championships that are available on YouTube. I was blown away with the level of coaching and the level of play that was there. Going on and being in those kind of landscapes with the Big East and then eventually the American Conference, or American Athletic Conference. I think the American Conference is a different thing entirely. But, kind of for people who maybe didn't play at the college level, what was that level really like? How does it compare to where you are now with the USL Championship?
Yeah, we had great players back then. I mean, Kenny Lola had some great guys at Louisville. Bobby Clark, great players at Notre Dame. George Kiefer was at South Florida at that point. Shaka Daly at Providence. Yeah, the conference was the best conference in the country. And then when you look at the guys you went up against, Bobby Clark, Kenny Lola, Shaka Daly, Dave Mazur, Bob Riasso, George Kiefer, Louis Bennett from Marquette, Keith Folk was at West Virginia. I mean, these were wars. These were tough games. To get to the conference play. This was not easy. So, that really helped sharpen us for the NCAA tournament by competing in that league. And I think we played maybe 9 or 10 games regular season in the league, and then 8 teams made the playoffs, so you could play another 4 games, 3 games before the NCAA tournament started.
I mean, just ridiculous. I mean, what a gauntlet to go through.
And you spoke about a little bit just on like the skill and playing level of the NCAA from your time there. How would you say that's kind of grown from your time at UConn and to just today in the modern game for the NCAA, and just kind of speaking to the position that the NCAA can still have for college soccer players to move on? For instance, you have like a Daryl DK who's now playing with West Brom.
I can't believe I'm saying this because I was in college for 40 years. Not only college soccer coach, but I think it's not as good as it used to be. Between MLS taking guys at 16, 17, 18, between guys going to school for a year and leaving early, there's a huge turnover, and a lot of the top guys don't spend much time in college. So the college game is still a competitive game, but I don't think it's as good as it was in the 90s.
And, whenever you're looking at guys that are, at Hartford, right? Some of those guys decide to not go to college. They decide to go straight into being a professional footballer. Some of them, signed their first ever professional contracts with Hartford. Is there an upside to taking that year of college and getting used to that kind of medium between high school and / academies, and then getting to the professional ranks? Or do you think it's just as beneficial to go through those academies straight to pro?
No, I think there is if you're not one of the top guys in the country, I think there's a big benefit to going to college. Everybody has a sports performance coach, so you grow physically, you mature, you play against men. In some cases, you go in as a 17-year-old, you're playing against 22, 23-year-olds as seniors. You learn to live on your own. You learn to take care of yourself. I do think there's a need for, if you're not one of the top guys, to go to college for 2 to 3 years and let yourself develop as a player and as a young man.
Yeah. I kind of want to jump back to your Southern Connecticut days. You were there as the head gaffer, for people who maybe don't know, I want to just read your record there. It's ridiculous. You were 146, 17, and 15 with a .862 winning percentage. Your most disappointing season that you had there was in 91, where you went 14-4-3. That's ridiculous. When you're going on those stretches of constantly being in the tournament, constantly making semifinals, constantly winning the whole thing, how much coaching do you have to do at that point in the terms of culture, right? How much of maintaining culture do you have to do, or does it really become, player leadership that they know what's expected and all you have to do is keep a guy in line every now and then teach the tactics?
Well, back then, you had to develop culture. You had to keep guys in line. It was a different time than now. There was a lot of coaching involved, but at the same time, we had a lot of great players. And in the end of the day, great players win games, great players win championships, great players make average coaches good coaches. So we were very blessed with the talent we had at that place. And it was a great time to be at Southern Connecticut. When I retired from UConn, when I was at Southern, I wanted to go Division I. And I went to UConn, and I just buried my head for 25 years. But in hindsight, I probably should have enjoyed Southern Connecticut a little bit more than I did. We were very fortunate. We had a lot of great players and great coaches.
And speaking to just kind of that culture that you have built, how much would you say, especially within NCAA, is it a challenge to continually build upon at that culture every year? Like if you win the national championship, how much of a challenge would you say is it to basically come back the next season, and say, okay, how can we improve? How can we get better off of one national title?
Look, it is very difficult to maintain that, that type of level. Now, Gino Auriemma has done it in UConn women's basketball. Nick Saban has done it in Alabama football. But these programs are few and far between. So you got to put a lot of energy in, and you got to try to motivate guys and, keep them chasing a prize. But it's a good thing. It's a good thing. It was fun to do, and it was an exciting time in my career.
I want to kind of come back to something that you said, and I want to bring it to where you are now. You say yourself that great players win championships, right? And we're looking at a Hartford roster that has got a massive revamp from someone that you knew well from, your original time down in Connecticut, which is Tab Ramos, right? We're looking at a revamped roster. We're looking at players who are playing their first minutes together because there was a lot of roster turnover. You have a captain who is its first year in Hartford. Getting these great players together is one thing, but getting them to play together is another. Have you seen that be an issue so far, or is that just something that great players figure it out?
Well, I think to answer your question, part of the whole revamp was getting a new coach. And, our number one target was Tab. We were fortunate to get Tab. He has not disappointed. He's fantastic with the players. He brought a great staff together. Hamid Namazi, our former under-18 national team coach, he was Tab's assistant with the under-20s. Brilliant soccer mind. Him and Tab are a great team together. And then he brought in Danny Gaspar, our goalkeeper coach, who's been with Carlos Queiroz in Portugal. Carlos Queiroz in Iran, been in a couple World Cups. One of the best, if not the best, goalkeeper trainer in the country. We had Matty Besma, who's our sports performance coach. Mike Diaz, who's our sports trainer. And then Nathan Cahoon, who's our director of soccer ops. So the first thing we had to do was put together a real good technical staff, which I think we have. And then Tab, me, Danny, and myself went to work, to fill out the roster, and we've tried to add some veterans, some young guys, and we've tried to change the culture a little bit. And, we're going to find out tomorrow. We leave from Monterey when we open up Saturday night, which is about the other end of the world. It's going to be planes, trains, and automobiles to get there, but it's all the worst trip of the year. At least we get it done the first weekend. But we're going to see. It's a new roster, a lot of good guys, a lot of good players, still putting it together. We're probably not the team we're going to be in a month. But as I said, I think Tab and his staff has done a good job in the first 6 weeks. We went to Florida for a couple of weeks, played the Columbus Crew, played Orlando City 2. We played the Revs 2 last Sunday night. So I think we've gotten prepared. Now we got to go out and see what we look like when the lights go on, and it really counts.
And at the end of last season, when you had appointed Tab Ramos, you guys ended the year with winning 5 games out of your last 9. Do you find that as a beneficial state to kind of help lay the foundation headed into a full preseason, headed into this year, and especially with one of the signing of the offseason, in my opinion, was Anthony Hopino, a real USL veteran and legend of the league.
Yeah, look, we wanted to get the new coach in, i.e. Tab, at least the last 5-6 games so he get a feel for the place. And as we looked at players, he wasn't just watching video, but he had worked with these guys for 6 weeks. So I think it was massive that we got Tab, Omid, and Danny in. And then Tab and Omid and Danny have contacts all over the country with players, which has opened doors for us. And obviously Opino, I believe, led the league in assists last year for Detroit. So he was a good get. Niall Logan, I could go on. I don't want to name a lot of guys, can forget some guys, but we're very fortunate the group we have. We're very excited about their mentality. Tab and his staff are working hard at developing the culture. And we're looking forward to seeing the lights go on Saturday night.
So, we have been talking about Hartford, and when we have started seeing the puzzles come together, but whenever we're talking about a show like the USL show that's trying to cover everybody, and we're trying to figure out the puzzle pieces early, right? As are you guys. Kind of knowing what's in the back pocket, kind of knowing what's coming before the players do. Obviously, the front office knows what's coming and whatnot, but sometimes I guess hearing fan reactions of stuff of them being like, well, we don't have this kind of player. We don't have that kind of player. We have a hole here and a hole there. Does it ever just kind of bother you and be like, it's coming. Don't worry. I have a job for a reason. It'll be okay.
Well, I wouldn't say that. I think we just got to watch all guys play for the next month, see where we're at, see what we need to add. But we're excited. I think we got a good group of players. I think our locker room is very strong. I think we have a good group of people. And as I said, I think we have the right guys leading the group, the right coaches. So, we're happy where we're at right now. It's time for some matches. And then, we'll have to, obviously, everybody has problems. We then fix the problems based on what we see this weekend and next weekend in Colorado.
And you had mentioned a little bit about these early road trips, and that's something at least changed within USL this year of having every team play every other team at least once. And to start out your season, you play 4 Western Conference teams in your first 7 games, and then you have 2 games against Birmingham in that time as well. How would you kind of evaluate this change within USL and just as the league as without the MLS2 sides in it, just how would you see the kind of just wider USL ecosystem growing into this season?
Well, again, I'm not the league. I have no idea why we're playing all these West Coast games. While we're making, if you count Tulsa, Vegas, and San Antonio, we're making 7 trips to the West Coast, which I have no idea why we're doing it. I would rather play each side, play our side of the Eastern Conference, everybody 3 times. And then that would give you, I think, 27 games. I think it's maybe 30 games, maybe 33, whatever. And then have 2 West Coast teams come on a Wednesday and Sunday, and then we go out on a Wednesday and Sunday. I mean, you're talking about wear and tear of players, now. So I have no idea why they're doing this. I don't really think they care what my opinion is on it. But it's a lot of wear and tear on players.
So whenever you're kind of planning to go from place to place and trying to get, players ready, obviously, you have a performance coach and stuff like that. You have trainers that get the players right. But as a technical director, you were a coach forever. You were a coach longer than some of your players have been alive, right? And so you've been around the block a time or two. Is there sometimes that you're just down at practice and you're just like, I want to get my hands on this guy so badly, not because he's doing anything wrong, but you just see something that that can be fixed? Or do you just kind of let Tab completely handle that and say he'll get to it when he gets to it?
When we met, Tab was talking about being inclusive, and he's been very inclusive with me. But when we hired him, I want him to run the team. If I was coaching, I wouldn't want some tech director telling me what player to play, and and nor would we gotten Tab if I ran it that way. So I'm at every practice. I go to the games. I give my opinion when asked. I watch. I try to help them. I'm a technical director, but I'm also more like a general manager, trying to give these guys what they need to win. So if I saw something glaring, I would maybe mention it to Tab, but that hasn't been the case since last September. I have great confidence in those guys, and I just watch. And unless I'm asked a question on the team, I hold it to myself right now. When you get a guy at the level of Tab Ramos, you let him work. You don't interfere with him.
And looking at another competition this year that at least has a major impact is just the Open Cup. I believe it's Hartford City and Lansdowne Yonkers who would get paired up with Hartford Athletic in the second round. How important would you say a competition like this is, not just for the lower leagues, but as U.S. soccer as a whole?
Yeah, I think it's a great opportunity for the league and for our players to showcase themselves. And if you are to advance to eventually play an MLS team, I think it's fantastic. Last year we beat Oyster Bay, and then we lost to Red Bull 2-1 in the first half. They really hammered us. It was 2-0. We scored early in the second half, and truthfully, we were all over them. And they played like 8 or 9 in the starting 10. So it's a great opportunity if we get past Hartford City or Lansdowne, whoever we play, to showcase our guys, to give our guys more competitive matches, to get us ready for the USL. We're excited about that opportunity.
For people who are listening to me, I've been trying to mute my mic a little bit because it is pouring out here, so it's going to sound a little atmospheric, I guess. So you're in the middle of a waterfall with me, I guess. But whenever we're talking about those Open Cup matches, one thing that teams and fan circle is, the fact that you can play an MLS2 team, right? The one thing about Hartford that I think a lot of people don't realize is that with or without playing an MLS team, or with or without supporting a team that's winning every single match, Hartford has some of the most passionate fans of any USL fan base. Being around the Connecticut scene for a very long time now, is that kind of passion for soccer always been there, or is this something that's really started coming alive with Hartford Athletic?
Well, first thing, the Hartford Athletic fans are tremendous. I saw that when I started going to the games last year, and I said this to one of our main owner, Bruce Mendel. These people are dying for a winner. They are just dying for a winner. We beat Red Bull 2 the 94th minute, 3-2, just a regular season match early. And we were like maybe 4-7, and the place exploded like it used to be at UConn when you won the Big East tournament. The place went crazy. So we have some great fans. In the state of Connecticut, when we were both at UConn and Southern Connecticut, we've always had great fans. We've been very lucky.
And I guess speaking to the wider soccer ecosystem within New England, a good friend of the show, Connor Smith, was announced as the head coach of Rhode Island. Aside from just having easier away days for the team, how important do you see as Hartford and USL just kind of encouraging just more soccer and more expansion teams within the New England area?
It's going to be a great derby because they're probably an hour and 15 minutes from us. And it's a great area, big Portuguese area. It's going to be a fantastic derby once we get going next year. And I'm sure, I believe Mike Parkhurst is the technical director. They're going to do a great job there. They're going to come out of the gate right off the bat. We're going to have to be ready for them.
It's kind of funny, that you mentioned that, Ryan, because, we just interviewed with Connor Smith not too long ago, calling him one of the top coaching prospects in the U.S. And then a couple weeks later, he gets hired as a coach and a general manager. Maybe we could put that down as getting him a job. So I guess we can pat ourselves on the back for that one. Um, this is just kind of going back to something earlier, and I just kind of want to know, you talked about going down to Miami and losing to FIU, years and years ago. When you guys go down to that FIU stadium to play the Miami FC, do you want to just give the boys a little pep talk and be like, "Hey, do it for the for the '87 Southern Connecticut," or like?
They could care less about my senior year in college, as you said. That was 40 years ago. Most of these parents weren't even married at that point. So no. Look, we lost a tough game in the final. They were better than us in '82. But it was part of what Southern had to go through its progression to win a national championship. We were the first team my senior year to make it to the finals at Southern. And then 5 years later, we won it. So, we've been very fortunate. Bob the Cranian was the head coach and built the program. And then I took over. And then when I left, Tommy Lang had it for 25 years. Tommy just retired effectively March 1st. So there's only been 3 coaches there. Right now, they're in the process of finding their 4th. And hopefully they'll get the right gentleman that can lead them back to get a 7th national championship.
Well, can you find yourself just properly enjoying Miami, or are you still a little bit bitter?
Oh, I won't. We'll be going down to win a game. That's all. It's business. In the hotel, go to the game. In the hotel, fly home. It's about winning. We're in the winning business, and that game is in late September. So hopefully that's going to be a critical match for us.
Absolutely.
Where are you located that it's raining, Kayla?
Alabama.
Okay.
It's absolutely pouring right now. So I do all these in my truck. It is pretty simple. It's nice acoustics until you get a massive downpour, and then it's just not great.
Ryan, where are you?
I am located in North Carolina. Personally, it's been fairly temperate weather lately. I've been able to run about the last 20 consecutive days, so I've been doing that to stay fit.
Good.
Yeah. So, for people who aren't watching, is this a home office that you're in?
Yeah, it's my house.
That is quite the background you got going on there. The amount of just soccer memorabilia stuff that you have up there. What do you think is probably your most prized possession hanging on those walls?
Probably the 2000 national championship team in Erickson Stadium in Charlotte when we beat Creighton at UConn. Maybe that picture. Or, yeah, probably that picture is important. Got a Pele signed jersey from that one, not jersey. It was like T-shirts given out. We got to the Final Four, and a friend of mine got Pele to sign them for us. Those 2 are pretty important. And then I got a picture here of my dad in the service. My dad passed away December 17th, 87 years old. That's very important to me as well.
Well, condolences for your father, of course. But for people who can't see behind you, it is just a treasure trove of just soccer stuff. It is, that's the kind of, I think that's everybody who listens to this like dream office. So
Thanks.
Oh man. Ryan, you got any final questions?
Just like out of all the teams that are at least coming into Hartford this year, is there a particular home match that you have circled on your calendar each week, and just is the one match that you're using as like a measuring stick to for the team?
Sounds a bit cliche. We're worried about Monterey on Saturday night right now in California. That's it. Let's get through that. We go on to the net. Take it one at a time and get through the early part and get to the good weather and get the big crowds. We're excited. It's been a project. I've been involved for almost close to a year. Tab and Omid have been involved probably for 8 months. Danny Gatz is probably involved for 10 months. So, ownership has shown faith in us, and we want to reward them for the faith they've provided in us.
even after this long of coaching and putting together teams, do you ever get nervous before the first game?
You know what? Last year when I was a technical director, I didn't get too nervous because it wasn't the guys I put on the field. When I coached last summer, I stood in when Harry quit until we had Tab. I got uptight, and then I got a little nervous. I don't know what I'm going to feel Saturday night. I'm looking forward to the game. I'm looking forward to seeing our guys play.
So our last question that we like to throw out to people, is there anything that you have been watching or reading lately that has been keeping your interest outside of soccer?
I'm reading Shoe Dog, the Phil Knight story about Nike.
Interesting. What's that one all about?
Yeah, it's kind of like how he started the business. It came from nothing. And I'm only in the early part of it, but I believe he went to Oregon. He might have been a track and field guy, and how he built the whole business. I'm just starting it now. I'll read a lot of it tomorrow on that 6-hour flight to California.
I do not envy you on
I don't. I'm a type A guy. 6 hours on one plane is very difficult for me. You got to do it. So
I guess it's a part of the job. On the bright side, you get to enjoy Monterey Bay, which I've heard is awesome.
Well, so it's a business trip, so we'll see.
That's what they always say before people go to Las Vegas too. But well, listen, it's been an absolute blast to talk to you for the last 30 minutes. We're not going to try to keep up too much more of your time. It was an absolute blast to talk to you. Thank you so much for coming on.
Hey, guys, I really appreciate it. In the future, if you want Tab or any of our players, just let Pons or Mark know. We'd love to get them on. And we appreciate what you're doing for the league and for the sport.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
You as well.
You too. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
And just like that, there was Reid. I mean, what a fun conversation, huh?
Yeah, that was really fascinating just to hear his background from college athletics and then how he built the team here in Hartford. It was just really cool.
Yeah, I mean, kind of going down, him just kind of casually throwing out every single person's soccer heroes growing up and then just saying, yeah, I coached him, I coached against him. That what a guy. I mean, kind of looking at this Hartford team, we talked about them a little bit on our preview, but there is a lot here for Hartford fans to be super excited about. Niall Logue just being announced as team captain. Obviously, Openo, is kind of the big one. But other big signings, and I've mentioned this on our previous show, a guy that's not getting a lot of love, but I am so high on, Joe Rice being signed in. That's something I wish I would have asked him about. I wish I would have asked him about, how the goalkeepers get signed, if that's through the goalkeeper coach himself, just finding people. But I am so in on Joe Rice, and I really think that he should be their guy going forward.
Yeah, this is a very much improved Hartford athletic team going into the year, and it seems like it's a team that's ready and has a step forward to take, and they're going to be a very competitive side throughout the entirety of the season, and hopefully one that can get over the line by the postseason into the playoffs. And it's a schedule, like we had mentioned on the show, that starts out with a few road trips and a couple games against Western Conference teams. But as you look into the season, you have a 3-game stretch in May, June against Loudoun, Sacramento, and Louisville at home. And then you have another one with Detroit, Charleston, and Indy coming to town. It's really a lot of summer home games, which is very beneficial to kind of building the foundation for that, just for a good playoff team.
Yeah, I mean, that's what really gets me. I mean, I think Hartford may fall victim of being in a crazy good Eastern Conference, because I think any other year this team is easily in the playoffs and is fighting for a home playoff game. Granted, I think they are going to make the playoffs. I think they are safely in that line. But people don't really think about this, and especially with the Miami teams like that. But I mean, we also hear it all the time with sports up in Seattle, which obviously we don't have that Washington team anymore with Tacoma gone. But I mean, the travel out of Hartford being so far away from everybody else, the travel out of Miami being so far away from everybody else, it's brutal. And he mentioned it. It's a brutal ask.
Yeah, just all of the travel that they had. I mean, they picked up 7 wins at home last year, and it was where they got the majority of their victories. And having all of these teams, like if you have your Sacramentos and your San Diego, who both take trips to Hartford, those are brutal road trips for both of those squads.
I mean, looking in the middle of the season, they have to go away to Tulsa. They have to go away to Las Vegas. They have to go away to San Antonio, and that's back to back to back. I mean, you assume they're not flying back to Hartford every single week. But I mean, these are guys that have kids, they have wives. Openo has a newborn child. I doubt he wants to be away from his newborn for 3 straight weeks. I doubt his wife wants him to be away for 3 straight weeks. And I know that's kind of part about being the professional athlete, but when you not only think about the body itself and how it handles travel, think about just the human side of that kind of travel too.
Yeah, it's very difficult road trips to prepare for, and especially just given how large this country is, you're going across a lot of different time zones, and it benefits them as well as you have a San Diego, Sacramento, and Orange County who all make trips to Hartford and have to play games, which to them would be much earlier than they would anticipate.
Yeah, it's very, very true. I don't know. This is a team that in the past I was critical of saying, this is a Hartford fan base that is just waiting to explode. I mean, he mentioned it. It was just a normal Red Bulls 2 match, not Red Bulls 1, but 2. And the fan base exploded. They went crazy for a game winner against a 2 team. It's a fan base that is ready to explode. And in the past, I was critical, saying, well, maybe this ownership isn't as invested as the fans are, but bringing in Tab and then essentially just kind of bringing in whoever he asked for. I mean, if the fans aren't excited for this, I don't know what they're waiting for.
Yeah, and just being right down the road from ESPN to have those nationally televised games on the network this year is certainly huge for Hartford coming into this season, and it's just it should be a very exciting year for the club.
All you need is one ESPN exec to go to a Hartford match, and they're hooked. I mean, I know it's not that easy because you still have to deal with the mouse, but also all it does is you can maybe flip one of those games, one more game added to the schedule, because they said when they release this ESPN schedule, more will be added. All it takes is one good match that somebody goes to, and they're going to fall in love and say, hey, I want to come out here for one more, and let's bring the cameras.
Yeah, and we talked about the Open Cup on this show, and we saw how magical that was for not just Sacramento last year, but just lower division as a whole. And that's something that I do believe Hartford can capitalize on if you can take advantage of maybe a New England Revolution team who could be having a down year, or catch New York Red Bulls or NYCFC on an off day.
Absolutely. I mean, I I'm just gonna, for people who are not Hartford fans that listen to that whole thing, um, I'm just gonna throw it out there, and Ray was an absolute blast to talk to. I don't think I've ever heard that heavy of a New York accent before. That was, I mean, that is everything you ever dream of whenever you talk to somebody from the New England area. That's everything you want, and it was awesome. But we kind of talked about the players they've signed and the people they brought in. I mean, for people who are outside of Hartford, Elvis Amo, Antoine Openo, Kyle Edwards, Andre Lewis, Denny Barea. Um, that's huge. That's huge. When you look at the defense, I mean, Tristan Hodge, Matt Shelton, and Tulu, that's a real deal back line. Plus a Joe Rice I'm really heavy on. This is a complete team.
Yeah, and it's not just a team that they signed, I mean, to just build out their own squad. It was enough that they were weakening other teams within the Eastern Conference. Losing an Anthony Hopino from Detroit is a big loss for them, and it's something that Hartford can basically capitalize on and take advantage of for this season. And like Anthony Hopino gets his rematch against Detroit in June 14th, and then makes his return to Keyworth at the end of the year in September.
I mean, also looking at, I mean, think about how much an MO would change a Colorado Springs outlook this year.
Yeah.
I
And
mean,
Hartford has done a really good job at just signing a lot of decent players to basically assemble a squad we think is capable of making the playoffs and going that one step further.
yeah. Also, just kind of casually having a Pele signed shirt on the wall. That's ridiculous. For people who weren't watching, who are listening to this, which I think our Spotify is uploading again, which that's cool. Um, um, if you are listening to this on Spotify or if you're on Apple Podcasts, his slow turn around to look at his entire room, I mean, incredible. I mean, I'm kind of already thinking like that could be our clip it moment. I just want to clip him just spinning.
Yeah, that's a room that many soccer fans would just be jealous of just being in, much less having.
Oh man. So look, thank you for, just kind of everybody for listening. This was a ton of fun. I don't think no, you weren't on the episode on Tuesday for our League One preview. So have you been catching up on The Last of Us? Have you added anything else to the watching list?
I just finished Severance yesterday, which was pretty good, decent TV show on Apple. But other than that, just getting ready for the USL Championship season. A very early, happy USL Championship Eve to everyone listening.
Absolutely. I've been getting myself excited for the USL season by binging the crap out of the World Baseball Classic.
That's a lot of fun.
I love the World Baseball Classic. It took what now 8 years off since 2017. How many years is that? 6? Yeah. I I missed it. For people who don't, I love baseball. It's probably baseball and soccer are tied for my favorite two sports. I love the two. And you know what? Hey, the World Baseball Classic is here. The Reds are winning spring training games, the games that actually count. And, the USL's almost back. It is almost my happiest time of year.
Yeah, I'm most excited for in terms of the World Baseball Classic is that USA Great Britain match because it has to come home this year. Baseball has to come home.
Well, this is the plot twist that every England fan who's been calling for it to come home, it's baseball. It's
Italy picked up a very good victory over a Cuba team today in the World Baseball Classic, which was exciting to watch, and that's just huge for their program.
And Australia was probably their worst roster in several World Baseball Classics, taking down
on a caught stealing into the game against Korea.
And they say baseball's dead. Maybe people who are this far, like, we're not baseball fans. Hey, for Hartford fans, I know about the Yard Goats. I know that they exist. Does that make you more entertained by this podcast that I know that the Hartford Yard Goats exist? Thank you, MLB Road to the Show, for for that. Well, look, lots to talk about. I could talk about baseball. I could talk about soccer all day long. I'm just excited for this season to start. So excited to get to match week 1, which we have those predictions coming out soon. So maybe you should check out the Twitter, check out Ryan's Twitter, and it'll be there. So yeah, thank you all so much for listening. And even though he was not here, go ahead and outro us, Mr. Alan Underwood.
Thank you for watching another episode of the USL Show. This and every episode is brought to you by the Beautiful Game Network. Find podcasts and other written work at bgn.fm. Once again, thanks for stopping by, and we'll see you guys again next week.